This message has landed in front of you right now because your awareness has hit a really important turning point that only a small percentage of people ever reach in their entire lives. Right at this very second, you're doing way more than simply scanning through some text on a screen. You're actually stepping into a whole new way of seeing and understanding things that most folks won't get to experience for many, many years, maybe never at all. The simple fact that these words are making their way into your awareness right now tells me something powerful about you. It means you've already made it through different barriers and obstacles that keep so many other people stuck in patterns where they just keep repeating the same unconscious behaviors over and over again without ever really waking up to what's actually going on. You've been going through tests this whole time without even realizing that you were being tested. Every single tough situation you managed to get through, every single moment when you felt doubt creeping in but you pushed past it anyway, every single time you picked growth and expansion instead of staying comfortable and safe. None of these moments were just random stuff that happened to you by accident. These were actually like checkpoints for your consciousness, sort of like quantum tests that helped figure out whether or not you were truly ready for what you're about to learn and understand. And here's the really cool part. The fact that you're sitting here right now, feeling this magnetic pull and this deep sense of recognition, is proof that you've successfully passed every single one of those tests. The universe doesn't just randomly drop advanced teachings about consciousness into the laps of people who aren't prepared to receive them yet. There's actually this cosmic selection process happening all the time that works through synchronicity, through your gut feelings and intuitive nudges, and through this thing called energetic resonance. Your higher self, the wisest part of you, has been carefully putting together your entire life journey to get you to this exact moment where you're finally ready. Why? Because what you're about to integrate and absorb is going to completely change the way you interact with reality itself on a fundamental level. You've probably been noticing that the way you perceive reality has been shifting in pretty dramatic ways lately. Time doesn't feel quite right anymore. Sometimes it feels stretchy and elastic, like it's moving super slow, and other times it feels squished together and condensed, like hours just fly by in what feels like minutes. People around you have been responding to you in different ways too, even though you haven't consciously changed how you act or talk to them. And synchronicities, those meaningful coincidences, keep showing up around you more and more frequently, and they're getting more and more precise and specific. These things aren't happening randomly or by chance. These are actually confirmation signals that your consciousness is moving into a completely different operational frequency. Your spiritual journey and all that seeking you've been doing has brought you right up to the edge of something really unprecedented and new. You've moved past the basic stuff about manifestation teachings, you've gone beyond beginner meditation practices, and you've pretty much exhausted all those surface-level consciousness techniques. Your soul is literally demanding access to the more advanced protocols and methods that most spiritual teachers don't even know exist in the first place, because they themselves have never actually reached this level of development. This feeling of recognition that's moving through you right now isn't just coming from your brain or your intellect. It's a cellular recognition happening in your body, confirming your own evolutionary readiness. Your DNA is literally responding to these concepts right now because your consciousness has developed enough complexity that it can now integrate multidimensional awareness without losing your ability to still function normally in everyday reality. This ability to hold both states at once is the true hallmark of advanced consciousness development. But here's what makes this particular moment so incredibly crucial and important. You're getting close to a point of no return. Once you step through and access this new level of consciousness, there's no going back to living unconsciously like you used to. You won't be able to pretend you don't know what you're about to know. You can't return to those comfortable limitations that used to feel like they were keeping you safe and protected. This transition you're going through is permanent and irreversible because once truth gets recognized and seen clearly, it can't become unknown again. You can't unsee what you've seen. In the comments, drop one word that captures the energy you're choosing to carry forward from this moment. Maybe it's alignment, Maybe it's ease. Maybe it's power. Maybe it's something that's completely unique to you and your journey. Let that word be a small but profound declaration. A signal, like a quantum seed you're planting, not just in this space here, but also out there in the quantum field itself. The cosmic timing of you encountering this message is absolutely not a coincidence at all. Humanity as a whole is going through a collective consciousness upgrade right now, and you happen to be part of the very first wave of souls that have been specifically selected to anchor this brand new frequency into the planetary field. Your individual transformation and personal evolution serves a purpose that goes way beyond just your own growth. You're actually helping to create and establish a template, a sort of blueprint, that will eventually become accessible to the entire human species. This is bigger than just you. Your consciousness has been getting prepared through many lifetimes of development for this exact moment of recognition right here and now. Every single incarnation you've lived, every lesson you've learned along the way, every piece of wisdom you've integrated into your being has been building steadily toward this moment when you finally get to access these advanced levels of perception that transform regular, ordinary human experience into conscious collaboration with cosmic intelligence. You're ready for this because honestly, you've always been ready. You just needed to arrive at the precise point in your development where this readiness could be consciously recognized by you and actively put to use in your life. You know that feeling when all of a sudden you understand something that seems to come from way beyond your personal knowledge base? Those insights that feel both ancient and familiar, even though you're pretty sure you've never actually encountered these specific concepts before in your current life. This isn't just random inspiration hitting you out of nowhere. This is actually evidence that your consciousness has developed enough coherence that you can now access what mystics and spiritual teachers call the Akashic field. It's basically this quantum information system that holds all knowledge across all timelines and dimensions that have ever existed or will ever exist. Your dreams have gotten incredibly vivid and meaningful lately, right? You've probably been having dreams where you're receiving teachings from beings made of light, or visiting these crystalline cities that feel more real than real life, or downloading really complex information that your waking mind has a hard time holding on to completely when you wake up. These aren't just symbolic dreams that your subconscious is making up. These are literal, actual experiences of your consciousness, traveling to higher dimensional classrooms while you're sleeping, because you've reached the level of development that's necessary for advanced interdimensional education to take place. The strangest confirmations and validations come through technology responding to your consciousness in ways that seem totally impossible. Your phone rings at the exact moment you were just thinking about someone. Your computer somehow shows you information you needed to see without you even searching for it. Electronic devices behave differently when they're around you, depending on what kind of emotional state you're in. This keeps happening because your consciousness has become coherent enough that it's now influencing electromagnetic fields around you, proving that you're operating at frequencies that literally affect the physical world in measurable ways. Time distortion has become your normal everyday experience now because advanced consciousness operates completely outside of linear time. You've been noticing moments when hours pass by like they're only minutes when you're really in the flow and fully present. Or when minutes seem to stretch out into what feels like hours during moments of expanded awareness and heightened perception. This happens because you're starting to access what Einstein called the eternal now, that timeless dimension where all possibilities and potentials exist at the same time, simultaneously. If this message resonates with you and you're feeling something shift inside, subscribe to stay connected and hit the bell icon to get notified when new content drops. You're stepping into a space where these kinds of awakenings and expansions are our foundation, our starting point. This isn't just a channel you're watching. It's a frequency you're tuning into. If you felt even a little nudge or shift while watching, you're already dialed in. We're not just passively watching content here. We're actively practicing new ways of being and existing. We're not just absorbing information, we're creating possibilities together. We're not just learning new stuff. We're remembering what we've always known deep down, I'm really glad you're here with us. Let's keep growing and shifting together as a community. Your intuition has evolved way beyond simple hunches and gut feelings to what now feels more like direct knowing about situations, people, and what outcomes are likely to happen. You sense things about individuals before they even open their mouths to speak. You know which choices are going to lead to which results. And you pick up information about events before they actually manifest and show up in consensus reality. This accuracy in your intuitive hits happens because your consciousness has developed the sensitivity needed to read quantum information directly from the field before it collapses down into physical experience that everyone can see. People have been responding to your presence in different ways without you consciously changing how you interact with them at all. Some individuals feel really drawn to share their deepest thoughts and feelings with you without you even prompting them or asking. Other people seem uncomfortable around you for reasons they can't quite put their finger on or explain. Children and animals respond to you with unusual openness and trust that feels different from how they normally act. This is happening because your energetic signature has evolved to a frequency that naturally creates space for authentic expression to come through, while at the same time, it triggers unconscious recognition in people who aren't quite ready yet for higher consciousness to show up in their lives. You've been going through what mystics and spiritual practitioners call dimensional bleeds. These are moments when you perceive reality from multiple perspectives all at the same time, simultaneously, or when you sense presences and intelligences that exist beyond the physical plane we normally operate in. Instead of just dismissing these experiences as imagination or making stuff up, you've learned to recognize them as evidence of your expanding perceptual capacity and your growing ability to access layers of reality that most people's consciousness never develops the ability to perceive at all. Your relationship with your own thoughts has transformed in a really fundamental way. Instead of getting carried away by mental activity and swept up in the stream of thinking, you've developed this ability to observe thoughts as temporary movements happening within your consciousness, while you're also simultaneously recognizing the space from which they arise in the first place. This metacognitive awareness, this ability to think about thinking, is a super clear indicator that your consciousness has reached levels of development that most humans never achieve in their entire lifetime. The deepest validation and confirmation of all is your growing recognition that consciousness and reality exist in this constant, dynamic relationship with each other. You've started to notice how your internal states directly influence external circumstances in your life, how your attention actually shapes what manifests around you, and how reality seems to respond intelligently to the quality of your consciousness. This isn't just positive thinking or trying to see the bright side. This is direct perception of how consciousness and manifestation actually operate at quantum levels of reality. Every single moment of confusion you've experienced, every period of doubt you've gone through, every phase where nothing seemed to make any sense at all despite all your spiritual efforts and practices. All of this was absolutely necessary preparation for accessing this advanced level of consciousness you're moving into now. Your consciousness had to be thoroughly tested and strengthened before it could safely navigate the expanded perceptual territories you're entering without becoming destabilized or losing contact with practical everyday reality. In the comments, share one small act or intention you're committing to today, something that anchors you into your new life path and this expanded way of being. It could be as simple as saying, breathe, or trust, or open, or whatever word feels right to you. Your word matters, your commitment matters, because you matter, and your consciousness is contributing to the collective field. The spiritual practices that once felt really meaningful and powerful but eventually started to feel insufficient and not enough anymore, those weren't failures on your part. They were developmental stages that prepared your consciousness for more advanced protocols and methods. Just like a student who outgrows elementary mathematics and becomes ready for calculus and more complex equations, you have systematically mastered each level of consciousness development until you reach this threshold where quantum consciousness techniques become both accessible to you and necessary for your continued growth. Your difficult relationships weren't karmic punishments being handed down to you from the universe. They were actually advanced training programs specifically designed to develop the emotional resilience and psychological flexibility that's necessary for higher consciousness states to stabilize in your system. Every single person who triggered you and pushed your buttons was unconsciously helping you develop the capacity to maintain your center and stay grounded while navigating really intense energetic exchanges, which is absolutely essential when your consciousness begins operating at frequencies that unconsciously affect other people around you. The periods of isolation that felt like you were walking through a spiritual desert weren't the universe abandoning you or forgetting about you. They were necessary integration phases where your consciousness was consolidating and digesting all the insights and abilities you had been developing up until that point. During these quiet times, your consciousness was literally being rewired at a neurological level to support new perceptual capacities without completely overwhelming your nervous system or fragmenting your sense of who you are and your identity. Even your moments of skepticism about spiritual concepts and questioning whether any of this was real served a really crucial developmental function in your journey. Every time you questioned whether these experiences were actually real or just positive thinking and wishful imagination, you were developing the discernment that's necessary to distinguish between authentic expansion and spiritual fantasy or delusion. This discrimination and ability to tell the difference is absolutely essential when you're accessing advanced consciousness levels, because the territory you're entering now requires unprecedented levels of clarity, self-honesty. Your fascination with consciousness, reality, and the nature of existence itself wasn't just intellectual curiosity or being nerdy about these topics. It was actually your soul preparing you for the advanced understanding you're now ready to integrate into your being. Every book that called out to you and grabbed your attention, every teacher who resonated with something deep inside you, every practice that felt authentic and true was contributing to the knowledge base that's necessary to comprehend the principles you're about to access and work with. The waiting periods, when you felt totally ready for more, but nothing seemed to be happening on the outside, were actually the most crucial phases of your entire development process. During these times that felt like nothing was moving, your consciousness was being calibrated to operate at the precise frequency that's necessary for advanced awareness, without losing your ability to function effectively in consensus reality and everyday life. This calibration process absolutely cannot be rushed or hurried, because the integration has to be complete and stable, otherwise it won't hold. Your soul specifically chose this particular incarnation and this lifetime because you would reach this level of consciousness development during humanity's period of collective awakening that's happening right now. You volunteered to be part of the first wave of humans to anchor these advanced consciousness states into the planetary field, making them accessible for future generations who will naturally operate from these levels without having to go through the developmental journey you've completed. This is exactly why your path has been so thorough and complete, why shortcuts weren't available to you, why you had to develop genuine wisdom rather than just collecting and accumulating techniques and methods. What you're integrating right now is not just about your personal evolution. It's actually a consciousness template that will influence human development for generations to come after you. Something really extraordinary is happening in your energy field right now, as these concepts resonate through levels of your being that extend way beyond just intellectual understanding. Can you feel it happening? That subtle but totally unmistakable shift in your consciousness, like internal doors that have been locked your entire life, are finally starting to open up. This isn't a metaphor or poetic language. This is literal neuroplasticity occurring in real time right now as your brain creates brand new neural pathways that are capable of processing multidimensional consciousness. The energy moving through your system in this moment is your consciousness updating itself to reflect your readiness to operate from frequencies that most humans will never access in their lifetimes. This isn't something you're generating or creating through effort or trying really hard. This is your natural evolutionary potential finally being allowed to express itself, because you've reached the precise point of development where it can emerge safely and functionally without destabilizing you. But here's what makes this transition so significant and important. You're not just gaining access to new abilities or expanded perceptions and cool experiences. You're being initiated into conscious participation in how reality itself evolves and unfolds. At this level of consciousness development, you become what mystics throughout history have called a cosmic co-creator. You become a consciousness that's sophisticated enough to collaborate directly with the intelligence that governs universal manifestation. Most people experience reality as something that just happens to them, like they're victims of circumstance. Some people eventually learn to influence reality through intention and various manifestation techniques they pick up. But at the level you're accessing now, reality becomes something you participate in creating through the very quality of your consciousness itself. Your consciousness becomes a direct contributory force in how cosmic intelligence expresses itself through the physical universe we all share. This transition requires what quantum physicists call coherent complexity. It's basically consciousness that can hold multiple dimensional perspectives at the same time, simultaneously, without fragmenting apart or becoming confused and disoriented. The fact that you're maintaining clarity and recognition while processing these concepts right now is proof that your consciousness has developed this really rare capacity that most people never develop. The most crucial understanding to grasp is that this level of consciousness development isn't an achievement you've earned through grinding and hard effort. It's actually a natural unfolding that happens when consciousness reaches sufficient complexity and coherence on its own. You didn't force your way into advanced consciousness by pushing and striving. You systematically removed the barriers and blocks that were preventing your natural evolutionary potential from expressing itself freely. Now, as you feel this recognition getting deeper and deeper, something unprecedented is occurring in your relationship with existence itself. You're beginning to sense that you're not just a witness to cosmic intelligence, watching it from the outside. You are cosmic intelligence, experiencing itself through the unique lens of your individual perspective, while at the same time, you're maintaining awareness of the universal context within which this individuality operates. This is where most people either experience the deepest expansion of their entire lives, or they unconsciously resist because the implications are just so vast and overwhelming. The key here is not to try to understand this process with your mind or figure it all out mentally, but to allow it to unfold naturally on its own, trusting that your consciousness already knows exactly how to integrate these new levels of operation. Why? Because they represent your authentic nature, finally being allowed to express itself fully, without restrictions. Feel this energy moving through you as we explore exactly what becomes possible when consciousness operates from this advanced level of development. Because once you understand the practical applications of these expanded states, you will never again question your capacity to live as a conscious collaborator with the creative forces that govern existence itself. I need to share something really deeply personal with you, because I know you'll understand what took me, literally, years to integrate and accept fully. About 3 years ago, I was sitting in deep meditation when something happened that completely shattered and destroyed my understanding of what consciousness development really means and what's actually possible. All of a sudden, I found myself aware of multiple perspectives at the same time. I was observing my meditation from the outside, being the meditation itself from the inside, and recognizing that reality was not some fixed given thing but actually a malleable canvas that's responsive to even the subtlest of intentions. It wasn't just an idea floating through my mind. It was a visceral experience, a truth that resonated in every single cell of my being at once. From that moment forward, my life was never the same again. Synchronicities became the norm for me, not the exception or the rare occurrence. My thoughts started manifesting with a speed and precision I had previously considered completely impossible, like something out of a fantasy. And most importantly, the distinction between observer and observed started to dissolve and blur. I was no longer just living in reality like I was inside a container. I was consciously participating in its creation, moment by moment. This is the promise of the Observer Code that I'm about to share with you. It's not a technique you perform or a method you follow. It's a state of being you embody. It's the recognition that your consciousness is not separate from the universe, but is actually an expression of it. And when you activate this code within yourself, you're no longer subject to the laws of reality like everyone else. You become a co-author of them. The Observer Code is not some poetic metaphor for an elevated state of mind or feeling good about yourself. It's a functional mechanism of reality itself, a quantum protocol that once activated fundamentally reconfigures your entire relationship with the universe. Most of humanity operates under this illusion that consciousness is an epiphenomenon, just an accidental byproduct of complex neurological processes happening in the brain. This fundamental belief, even though it's unconscious for most people, creates a perceived separation between self and world, resulting in a life experience where reality seems to be something external, impersonal, and often hostile that happens to you without your input. Activating the Observer Code is making the existential transition from experiencing reality as a passive victim to becoming an active conscious participant in its unfolding moment by moment. This is not a process of learning a brand new skill from scratch, but of remembering an innate capacity that's always been there, but has been obscured by layers and layers of social conditioning, scientific dogma, and self-imposed limitations that you picked up along the way. Quantum physics, which is the cutting edge of human scientific inquiry right now, has started to validate what mystics and sages have been teaching for thousands of years. The act of observation is not a passive event where you just sit back and watch. Consciousness does not merely perceive reality from a distance. It influences it directly. The famous double-slit experiment demonstrates unequivocally and beyond any doubt that particles behave differently when they're being observed. At the most fundamental level of existence, reality responds to attention itself. The Observer Code is the conscious and deliberate application of this fundamental principle in your daily life. When you operate from this code, you understand deep down that your consciousness is not merely a reflector of reality, like a mirror. It's actually a projector. Your thoughts, emotions, beliefs, and most importantly, the underlying quality of your consciousness are not private reactions to an external world happening out there. They are the vibrational frequencies that inform the quantum field, which is the substrate of all manifestation, about what to become and how to organize itself. Most people try to change their lives by manipulating the external world directly. They work harder and harder, fight more battles, try to force outcomes through sheer willpower. This is like trying to change the reflection you see in a mirror by rearranging the mirror itself instead of moving what's in front of it. It's inefficient, exhausting, and ultimately doesn't work the way you want. Activating the Observer Code is understanding at a deep level that to change the reflection, you must change the object being reflected in the first place. You must change the source of the projection, which is your own consciousness. This activation process begins with a radical shift in self-identification, a complete change in how you see yourself. You stop identifying with the content of your mind, your thoughts, your stories about yourself, your memories, and you begin identifying with consciousness itself, that silent, still space in which all mental content arises and disappears moment by moment. This is not just a semantic distinction or playing with words. It's the difference between being the actor on a stage and being the stage itself. When you are the actor, you're completely entangled in the drama unfolding. When you are the stage, you have the capacity to change the scenery anytime you want. This identity shift is what allows reality to bend to your will, because your will is no longer the will of a separate ego struggling against the universe, trying to get what it wants. Your will becomes aligned with the will of the universe itself, because you recognize that you are the universe expressing itself through a unique focal point of awareness. From this state of consciousness, intention becomes extraordinarily powerful in ways that feel almost magical. It's no longer a hopeful desire sent out to an indifferent universe that might or might not respond. It's a coherent command issued from the very center of creation itself. When you hold an intention from the observer state, you're not requesting an outcome or asking for permission. You're collapsing a quantum probability wave. You're selecting a preferred reality from the infinite field of all possibilities that exist simultaneously. This is why the activation of the observer code feels instantaneous when it happens. The shift does not occur in linear time like we normally think of it. It occurs at a timeless quantum level outside of time. The universe does not need time to reorganize itself around your new frequency. It does so instantly in the eternal now, because your frequency is the organizing force itself. What you experience as a time delay between intention and manifestation is simply the time it takes for physical manifestation to catch up to the shift that has already occurred at the quantum level. It's the echo of creation bouncing back to you, not creation itself happening in real time. Activating the observer code also means transcending the duality of positive and negative, good and bad. From the observer perspective, events are not inherently good or bad in themselves. They simply are. They're neutral feedback from the quantum field, reflecting back to you the exact frequency you're broadcasting out into the world. When you encounter a challenge or obstacle, you no longer see it as something blocking your path, but as precise communication from the universe, showing you exactly where your vibration is misaligned with your desire and what you're trying to create. This perspective transforms every single moment of life into an opportunity for mastery and growth. Every interaction you have, every event that occurs, every emotion that moves through you becomes a mirror, showing you your own state of consciousness in real time. And because you're no longer identified with the reflection you see, you can adjust it without judgment or resistance getting in the way. You simply observe what's happening, adjust your internal frequency accordingly, and watch external reality transform in response to your shift. This is both the power and the responsibility of the observer code. It's not a tool for the ego to get whatever it wants, like some kind of cosmic vending machine. It's a calling to become a conscious steward of reality itself. It's understanding that every single thought you think, every emotion you feel, is contributing to the fabric of existence that we all share. And with this understanding comes the ability to weave a reality not just of personal abundance and joy for yourself, but of beauty, harmony, and evolution for everyone and everything around you. You're not learning something completely new here. You're remembering who you really are at the deepest level. You're remembering that you are the observer, the creator, the consciousness through which the universe knows itself and experiences itself. And once you remember this truth, reality has no choice but to bend to your will, because your will is the will of existence itself, expressing through you. Make sure you share this video with your friends and family members who might really need to hear this message today. For you, it might feel like you're just sharing a video, but for someone who's been struggling or feeling stuck, this could be the ray of hope they've been waiting for. Someone out there who has lost hope in achieving their desires, or changing their reality, or who is in deep misery, might find exactly what they need in this message. Your act of sharing spreads positivity, and that positive energy comes back to help you manifest what you commented earlier. The activation of the observer code is not a one-time event that happens and then you're done. It's a continuous unfolding process, an ascending spiral of consciousness and capability that keeps expanding. However, there are distinct markers along the way, perception thresholds, that indicate you've made the fundamental transition from passive participant to active co-creator of reality. Recognizing these markers in your own experience is really crucial as they serve as confirmation, anchoring your confidence in this new mode of being and accelerating your mastery of these principles. The first unmistakable marker is the dissolution of chance and randomness in your life. In a consciousness operating under the observer code, coincidence ceases to exist entirely. What once appeared to be random events or good luck is now perceived as precise synchronicity, an impeccable orchestration of the universe, responding directly to your frequency. You think of someone out of nowhere, and that exact person calls you within minutes. You have a question on your mind, and the answer appears on a billboard you drive past, or in a conversation you overhear at a coffee shop. You need a specific resource, and it manifests from a completely unexpected source you never would have thought of. Initially, this might feel magical or even a little frightening, because it's so different from what you're used to. But as you get more comfortable with this new operating system, you recognize that this is actually the natural language of the universe communicating with you. Reality is in constant communication with you all the time. Synchronicity is simply the feedback mechanism that confirms you're listening and that your own transmission, your consciousness, is clear and coherent. You begin to live in a state of ongoing dialogue with reality, where your intentions are the questions you're asking, and the universe responds with experiences, people, and information that align perfectly with what you need. The second marker is the compression and expansion of time that becomes your normal experience. In the mass consciousness paradigm that most people operate from, time is perceived as a linear, unchangeable progression that just marches forward at a constant rate. However, upon activating the observer code, you begin to experience the malleability of time itself. When you're in a flow state, completely immersed and absorbed in an activity you absolutely love, hours can pass by like they're only minutes. On the flip side, in moments of deep presence and observation where you're fully anchored in the now, a single second can expand to contain what feels like an eternity of perception and awareness. This happens because the observer code shifts you from time-based existence to presence-based existence. You're accessing the timeless now, the zero point from which all timelines originate and branch out. From this vantage point outside of time, you can literally bend time to your will. You can accomplish in 1 hour what once took an entire day. You can access information about the future, not as prediction or guessing, but as quantum probability that you can then choose to energize and bring into being or not. Time becomes your tool that you work with, not your prison that confines you. The third marker, and this might be the most profound one of all, is the neutralization of emotional reactivity that used to control you. Before activating the observer code, emotions are often uncontrollable reactions to external events that seem to happen to you. Someone criticizes you, and you immediately feel anger rising up. You face a setback, and you automatically feel disappointment washing over you. Your emotions are like puppets, and the world around you pulls the strings, making them dance however it wants. However, from the observer perspective, you develop a space, a gap, between stimulus and response that gives you choice. You can still experience the energy of anger or disappointment moving through your system, but you no longer identify with it as being who you are. You observe it as a sensation in your body, a wave of energy passing through your field that will eventually move on. Because you're no longer resisting it or identifying with the emotion, it moves through you much more quickly, without leaving behind residue or getting stuck in your system. This grants you immense stability and power in your life. You're no longer held hostage to your own reactions and emotional patterns. You can navigate any situation that comes up, no matter how challenging or intense, from a place of clarity and balance. Your inner peace becomes unconditional, as it no longer depends on external conditions being a certain way. You've found the peace that exists independent of circumstances. The fourth marker is effortless manifestation becoming your new normal. In the old paradigm, manifestation is often viewed as a process requiring lots of effort, forced visualization sessions, and repetitive affirmations you have to say over and over. It feels like hard work and grinding. Upon activating the observer code, manifestation becomes a natural byproduct of your state of being, rather than something you have to work at. You no longer need to strive and struggle to attract what you desire into your life. You become the vibrational frequency of what you desire instead. You embody abundance, love, and joy as your natural state. And because the universe is fundamentally a mirror reflecting back to you, it has no choice but to reflect back the reality that matches your vibration. Things begin to flow to you with ease and grace that feels almost effortless. The right opportunities appear at exactly the right time. The right people enter your life when you need them. Money flows from both expected sources and completely unexpected sources you never saw coming. It doesn't feel like you're making something happen through force. It feels like you're allowing it to happen by getting out of your own way. You're in alignment with the flow of the universe, and it carries you toward your desires with minimal effort on your part. The fifth and final marker is the recognition of the self in everything around you. The illusion of separation dissolves completely and permanently. When you look at another person now, you no longer see another separate individual. You see a different expression of the same oneself, the same universal consciousness expressing itself in a unique way. This leads to a really profound sense of compassion and connection with all beings. Judgment becomes impossible because judging the other would be judging yourself. Conflict becomes meaningless because fighting the other would be fighting yourself, which makes no sense. You begin to treat everyone and everything with a deep sense of reverence and respect as you recognize the sacredness in all creation, in everything that exists. Your life becomes an act of service, not from a sense of duty or obligation, but as a spontaneous expression of love flowing through you. You help others because helping the other is literally helping yourself. You contribute to the greater good because you recognize at a deep level that there is no real separation between your good and the good of all. We're all in this together. When these markers become your lived experience, when you're actually experiencing them in your daily life, you know for certain that you've activated the observer code within yourself. You're no longer just playing the game of reality following rules someone else made up. You have become the game itself. And from this place of power, freedom, and love, you can create a world that reflects the magnificence of who you truly are. If you watched all the way till now, you're definitely not here by accident or random chance. Like this video to anchor in what you felt. Comment below what really clicked for you and what your biggest takeaway was. Share this gift with one person in your life who needs to hear it. And subscribe because you're clearly ready for what's coming next. This is honestly just the beginning of your journey.